to the Orange Couch.
I'm Mark.
I'm Amanda.
And this is Mad Men, Season 7, Episode 9, New Business.
As Mad Men starts winding down, Matthew Weiner and company are exploring the theme that really kicked off the series, whether there really is such a thing as a fresh start. In the first couple of seasons, Don tried to get a fresh start in the most dramatic fashion possible by stealing another man's identity and living an entirely different life. But his past as Dick Whitman kept coming back to haunt him. Now he's not hiding the Dick Whitman thing as much anymore, but once again he is drawn to the idea of a clean start, just getting rid of both Betty and Megan and trying to reboot his existence with this new woman, Diana, who he just randomly chose at a restaurant.
But this reboot is somewhat different. Don mentions why he moved to New York.
I always wanted to live here. It was in all the movies, all the magazines.
And Diana's first comment about his apartment is that it looks like Architectural Digest. That's exactly right. In his previous two lives, Don was trying to be the perfect man from movies and magazines. But with Diana, he is owning his past from the get-go. His divorces, his grief, his low points. And he's connecting with an age-appropriate woman who has already lived one life herself. He's not latching onto a naive young woman who buys his cardboard cutout sales pitch like Betty or Megan.
While that is definitely an improvement, however, that old Don Draper instinct to just destroy and rebuild from the ground up seems to be in play. The second he latches onto Diana, he clearly builds an elaborate fantasy about their future together, one that is so powerful to him that he doesn't seem to notice that she's reluctant to actually start a relationship. So much so that he keeps making a big fat fuss over how his divorce is about to be finalized, even though Diana doesn't seem to care much one way or another what the particular details are.
And it's not like we haven't seen this before. He got real with Faye Miller, another woman closer to his age. He wrote the cigarette ad and everything seemed to be coming together. Then Megan and Disneyland happened and boom, Don's right back at square one. Maybe he's forever trapped in the circle of hell Pete describes.
Jiminy Christmas. I think you're going to begin your life over and do it right. But what if you never get past the beginning again?
The fantasy of just completely rebooting your life and starting fresh has a lot of power, but by the end of the episode, we're left with a poignant reminder that this just leaves you empty. Diana is running too far in the other direction, letting her baggage completely define her. But Don needs to start accepting that his past will always be with him, not something he can just send away with $1 million check.
His fantasy with Diana is clearly that he would rescue her from this life of sullen drudgery, and as you noted during the show, the one thing Diana has in common with Megan and Betty is a very uneven power dynamic with Don. He's trying to give her freedom and social status in return for being with him, and given how their relationship started, with a big tip Diana felt she had to pay off with sex, it's hard to argue that this relationship isn't transactional.
The idea of true human feeling being replaced with transactional relationships was all over this show, and you didn't need Megan's mother drop in the W word in order to get to that point.
He gave me a check for $500. Like a whore?
Where do whores go indeed? Megan and Diana are both characters who are acutely aware that Don wants to treat them, for lack of a better term, like whores, buying their affection with money. Megan can't decide how she feels about that, wavering between demanding money from him as basically emotional compensation for everything he's put her through, and then, after her mom wipes him clean of all of his furniture, refusing to take even a cigarette from him for fear that she's being bought off.
I don't want anything of yours.
Of course, hard to blame her for changing her tune when what's on offer is $1 million to go away. A classic win-win situation, even if it does have that gross transactional feel to it.
And even if Don isn't consciously aware of his transactional behavior, Diana is. Since the big tip, she's turned down almost every single thing he offers her. She turns down a drink, she turns down water, she turns down a ride, she turns down the guidebook, and she says this.
Can't you see I don't want anything?
To underline this theme of transactional relationships, we have a couple of other people who treat sex, love, and even art as little more than currency. Pima, for instance, is running a hustle where she shamelessly flatters and even fucks people for a shot at that advertising work that is notoriously better paid than taking arty photos to be stared at in a museum. She's not just trading sex, but her reputation as a true artiste for the cold, hard cash.
Marie needs money from Roger, and when he provides it, she gives him what he wants. Given that she left her husband, this couple may be going somewhere, but it all started with a cash deal.
And of course, Harry runs the same scam on Megan that Pima runs on Stan, but it doesn't work because Harry is so ham-fisted and such a glib liar. His attempt to bully her by telling her there is no way to get work without hitting the casting couch really captures the central question of this episode. Is there such a thing as authentic connection, or is everything just a transaction? Tellingly, I don't think this episode ever answers that question.
We end with Don in an empty apartment he was already planning to sell. Another fresh start, another beginning. And once more round that circle of hell will go, starting next week on the Orange Couch.
And join us at Slate's Browbeat for Game of Thrones recaps every Monday morning.